Hi, in this screencast I'm going to share with you how it is that you can create your very own resource collections. So from again the SDSU homepage in our Learning Center, I'm going to click again to My Library. And then I'm going to click Go to My Library once I arrive here. So that should be loading very slowly. Okay, so once we're here, I've already put a variety of resources. I've done a search on Faces of the Moon and I've added a bunch of resources. So I'm going to create a resource collection about Faces of the Moon. So I'm going to go over to my resource collections first, and I'm going to start a new collection. And I'm going to title it Phases of the Moon. And for now, I'm not going to actually take the time to add a description, but for your assignment, I'd like you to take some time and actually describe a little bit about what these resources are and why it is that you put them together. And then we can select the grades that we find that this would be most appropriate. So for this case, I'm going to click on elementary and middle school. And I'm going to make it public. And you can have the option if you'd like to keep it private while you're creating it and then make it public later, you can do that, but I'm just going to leave it public for now. And since these aren't exactly private resources, and then I click submit. It's not like anyone's going to learn anything about you. Okay, so this is now my resource collection. There's obviously no items in here yet. So there is an option of sharing the collection. We don't want to do that yet since there's nothing there. And then there's the option of making it private if I'd like to do that later. So now we have a little error message here saying that, right, there's no items in it, so we can go to our library of resources, or we could search for more items if we wanted to add more items. So I'm going to go to my library of resources. I could also do this by clicking the My Resources tab in the top corner there, so I could have clicked this tab. So it's going to bring me to the My Resource page. And like I said, I've already added a few items here. So one of the items I added was a science object. So I'm going to go to my list of science objects, and you'll notice the very first one here is on Earth, Sun, and Moon and motions of the moon. So once I come here, I'm actually going to go over to the right, and I'm going to click on Add to Collection. So I clicked on that Add to Collection screen, and here, let me adjust my screen here so that you can actually see this. Oops. Okay, so now you'll notice that a pop-up window has popped up. And so at the very top it'll say the name of the item that you're trying to add. So in this case we're adding the Earth, Sun, Moon, motion of the moon. And then it will give you a list of existing resource collections that you've created. And so if this is your first time creating a collection, it'll be easy. You should only have one here. I clearly have several more, and so I'm going to scroll down till I find the one that's the right title, called Faces of the Moon. Additionally, if you haven't created a resource collection, you could actually create it from the first item that you add. And so there's a spot here that you could actually create a new collection to add that resource to. And it will also give you on the right side of the screen just a brief description of the item that you're actually adding to your resource collection. So I'm going to go back over here to the left. So I've clicked on Faces of the Moon since that's where I want to add this resource, and then I'm going to click Save Changes. Okay, and so a little yellow bar will pop up here saying collection changes saved, and then we'll go to close window. Now I'm going to go back to view all resource types since I don't have any other science objects that I'd like to add. So now the next thing I'm going to do is add a book chapter. And again, this is now searching alphabetically, and I want to search by the last item that I added since this is what I most recently added. So I'm going to click here to search by date added to library, and you'll notice looks like two different book chapters on Phases of the Moon. So we will click on Add to Collection for both. So I'm going to add to the collection, scroll down till I find my Phases of the Moon resource, and click Save Changes. Close this window, and I will do it for the second item, Add to Collection, scroll down till I find Phases of the Moon. Check, and then click Save Changes. So now that's added those two book chapters. And then I'm going to go back to view all resource type. I could actually also just click this My Resources tab here. They'll do the same thing. I also found some journal articles, so I'm going to go to my journal articles and then search again or sort again by date added to the library so I can find the most recent items I added to the library. So at the very top here, you'll see that there's one article on phases of the moon. So I'm going to add that to the collection by clicking on the right here. And then scroll down till I find phases of the moon, same as adding a book chapter, and click Save Changes. And now we'll close this window. And then again, I'm going to go back to my resources. And then the last item that I want to add is actually an external resource. So those are on the very bottom of the screen here. So I'll click on External Resources. And so this was a resource from NASA. So, but again, we'll add it the exact same way. We'll go to Add to Collection. And then my set of existing collections will show up. I'll check Phases of the Moon. And if you wanted to put it in multiple ones here, you could also select multiple collections if you were trying to create different ones. And then click Save Changes. And then we will close that window. So now we've added a whole bunch of resources to our collection. So now instead of going back to my resources, I've added all the resources that I want to add at this point in time. I'm going to go to my resource collection. And again, this should show up under my collections. Since if this is your first collection, you won't see too many items here. You should just see your one collection. But I'm going to scroll down till I find Phases of the Moon. And I will select Phases of the Moon. And here are the items that I added to my particular resource. So these are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items that I've added around my collection. So one thing you can do if you'd like to, you can always use these things over here on the right side to actually remove things from your collection or make other changes. One thing I'd like you to do as part of your resource collection is also to make a note for each item as to why you chose to include that item. And when you're creating this note, so you'll click Create Note and it'll give you a chance to title it and type some information about the article. One thing you'll note on the right side of the screen there's a pretty good description of what the item actually is. So you don't need to summarize the article, but rather write a sentence or two as to why you think this item is helpful in terms of the goals of your collection. And that's how you create a resource collection. And once you've actually created that resource collection, what I'd like you to do, so we'll go back to the resource collection, and I will click Phases of the Moon. So now let's say we've added a description. We're missing a description here, but we've added a description here, and we can do that by editing the collection name and description. So I can even say something here, right? So this is our description of why we have this collection, right? Okay, so we have our collection. Now we're going to click on this link here that says share this collection, right? And you'll notice when you get that, you could email it to somebody. But what I'd like you to do is actually go to the bottom right corner here. Once you're completely done with your collection and you're ready to submit it for an assignment, is click on this little URL at the bottom and copy it. So I'm hitting Control-C to copy it once it's highlighted, but you could do that in a variety of different ways. So I've copied that URL. And then I'm actually going to go over up to the top here where it says Community Forums. So I'm going to click on Community Forums, and you will see a variety of different forums that you might participate in. And for this case, we're actually going to go to our private forum. So this forum is available only to those of us in the class. And you'll see right now there are only 2 threads. One is titled Resource Collection, one is titled Welcome to Science Methods. So we'll go into the Resource Collections thread, and this is where you can actually share. So you'll share your resource collection with the rest of the courses below. And so you can actually, you don't know that I had you copy the URL. You don't actually need to copy the URL. You can actually create a post here that kind of describe put the name of your title of your resource collection, You should also add a little description of what your resource collection is. And then you can actually go down here to the bottom and where it says attach my collections, you can click attach my collections, find that, in this case it was Phases of the Moon, and attach that collection right to your post. So you don't even need that URL, though you might find that URL helpful at some other point in time to have access to. And so that's how you create a resource collection and how you share it with your classmates. Thanks. Hope that was helpful.